Should you buy a property in 2003? Or I guess that's a question lots of people are asking at the moment. Probably should be more, should I buy a property just before a recession? Well, I can hopefully help with that because I bought a property in 2005, 2 years before the 2008 crash. I also financed at quite high rates, so it's quite relevant to what's happening today. So I thought we could do a quick chat about that, tell you what I did, how I managed to work myself out of it and how I protected myself. So I bought a new build property, which again was a bad move because obviously you're paying quite a premium in 2005. We were heading into 2008 and everyone thought rates were going to go up even further. So I took out a 5-year fixed rate at about 5.75, 5.95, I think it was at the time. So my monthly payment was quite high. I think it wasn't far off £900 a month on a £138,000 mortgage. But I thought, well, if rates go even higher, I maybe will struggle with that. So I'm going to fix it. I know I can afford it and I know I can make the payments. So I'm going to fix it for 5 years. So what happened in 2008? Well, there was a liquidity issue with all of the banks. And the reason that some banks had to be bailed out is because they'd lent too much money in terms of assets that they held. So anyway, banks, the government said that the banks had to stop lending so much money, so the banks stopped lending, but they dropped rates through the floor. So my 5.8% mortgage should have been about 2.5% at the time. However, as I said, I knew I could afford it and I knew what the monthlies were. So I lived in the property for a while, but I decided that I didn't want to live in the property anymore. Prices had dropped in the area, so I think the property was worth about £10,000 less than what I paid for it. So I decided to rent the property out and move to London. So that's what I did. And I ended up carrying on just renting the property out because rents have always risen and the rent was good against what the mortgage was, even at those rates. Many other strategies around there like that, where you can get a bank to lend you some money on something and then get somebody else to pay the debt off for you. As long as you have a backup plan, you can afford to be a bit flexible. At the end of the day, at the moment, lots of people have made money on property the last few years. However, when they sell that property and buy another one, generally the other property has gone up relative to what the gain that they've made on the other ones. So property's all relative, really. If prices come down and you want to sell, then the property you're buying will usually have reduced in cost as well. The biggest thing probably to do is in adding value to properties, so extending or doing heavy refurbs, or the good thing about my property was it was in a popular area, so it was close to good motorway links. There was lots of universities and colleges nearby. Densely populated and highly populated area. So obviously on those things, if you're more remote or there's not any areas for people to work or to shop, then you may struggle a bit more with that. But provided you're in a densely populated area where there's lots of workplaces and lots of work around, you should normally do okay. I think this is all quite relative. I mean, if you've had any other experiences, let me know in the comments. I've ran some holiday lets, I've done buy-to-let, I've done refurbishment, and I have another business which is sort of linked to property. That's what I did. And I ended up carrying on just renting the property out because rents have always risen and the rent was good against what the mortgage was, even at those rates. So I continued to rent it out up until quite recently, actually, so last year. So I decided in the end to sell the property because I think it was a bit of a poor investment initially. However, I still made a profit because somebody else was paying down my loan. Even though I didn't get much capital appreciation, I had somebody else was paying down the loan for me. So that got me some equity in the property. And I sort of thought it might have peaked in terms of a buy-to-let. I wasn't allowed to change the product because it didn't have a buy-to-let mortgage. It actually was a second mortgage on a permission to let. So I couldn't change it and fix the rate. So I just decided to take my money out and then put my money into a current property, which we are heavily refurbishing and concentrating on that. So I think, as always, rents have increased, and you've always got a great option to rent the property out rather than sell it, even though the property might have dropped in value. And with property, everything's quite relative. So whilst we've seen some ridiculous increases in property in the last few years, if you want to sell the property you're in, you're going to make a profit on that. But the chances are that the next property you're going to buy would have also increased in value as well. So it's all relative in terms of the money that you've gained. And second to that, if you're refurbishing or developing property, you would hope that you would add some significant value, so you've ridden out any slight drops in the purchase price when you've come to sort of sell it on again. So you've maybe made a one-bedroom apartment into a two-bed apartment, or you've created a three-bed house into a five-bed house, or you've created a family room and extended the property. I guess it's always about adding value. Anyway, hopefully you can learn from that. And any questions, please pop them in the comments below, and I will answer them for you. So thanks for tuning in.